Hi, how are you doing today? My name is Charlie, and welcome to Fantasy First Aid. If you don't know, I am a sci-fi fantasy writer who has been doing this for way too long. My first book came out like 17 years ago, I want to say. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been writing and world building and somehow doing it all as a pantser for the vast majority of that. Of all of the books that I have put out over the years, no, that was slapdashed. Never mind. None of them were outlined. Not a single one of them was actually outlined. I almost said the chain was outlined, but it wasn't because I'd made an outline for it. And about halfway through chapter 1, I went, I hate this, and went off in a completely different direction. So, pantser to the core. So, we are going to be talking today about how to do your world building if you're a pantser, keep your world consistent, and how not to have to do and complete rewrite when you get to editing, because that is the biggest problem that we pantsers have when it comes to, well, the world building. But before we get into all of this, I am not alone. I am joined by a lot of people today, and I am so excited for that. The wonderful Carrie H. author is here. Hello, Carrie.
Hi.
Cat Leo is here. Megan McCarthy is here. And Glory is here. And I am very excited to get into this topic. It is one that I have been asked to do, I think, since I first started doing things on YouTube. I think this is one of the first things. And I wanted to find a way to explain my process that is human relatable. And it took me all these years to get to this. But I've distilled it down into a 5-step program that I think everybody can follow. But hey, how is everybody doing today? Let us know how the weather is in your region. Are the trees being villains? My trees are villains. I do not like them. They formally assaulted me today, and I am not here for it. I would press charges if I could, but I can't. I want to set that tree in my front yard on fire. I really, really, I'm done with it. It doesn't even shade the house. I don't know why it's there. It's just there to put seeds in the lawn that we have to pull out and all the pollen. How are y'all doing today?
Pretty good.
I'm on my 4th cup of coffee. All this caffeine is going to hit me right before I go to bed.
Oh, man.
This is the way. Yeah, I am on my 3rd. I don't know if there will be a 4th after this. There might be. There really might be.
I polished off the 2 cups that were from the pot from yesterday and then made a fresh pot. And Joe's going to come home and be like, what?
So, if I seem oddly jovial today and a little out of it, it's because, well, I am very out of it. But before we came on screen, there was much celebration and partying in the backstage, of much rejoicing that things arrived, even though, dear God, all of hell's minions tried to stop a package from making it to glory, and yet still somehow they failed.
Hooray!
Hooray!
And it oddly feels like a metaphorical victory for every one of us. I don't want to speak for the rest of y'all, but it feels like a metaphorical victory for me that package.
Poor box.
Look at this box. And he came mostly like this. It was the post office put it in a different box. I feel this way. This is what I feel like. This is what I felt like for at least 6 months now, if I'm really honest. And I'm just starting to feel better. So, yes, we are this box.
It feels like an odd metaphorical victory. And I will take any victory we can get right now, metaphorical, allegorical, animal, or mineral. I really don't care.
How is everybody else having warmer weather than me?
Alrighty.
It's only 65 degrees and sunny here.
Let's jump
it's been in the 80s. I haven't gone outside today, but I haven't had the energy to. But Our air conditioning's actually
Only
on.
90?
Oh wow.
How is it
Yeah.
only 90 degrees outside?
Only 90.
Oh
Like,
no,
that's enough.
it's that kind of humid, ughy, pollen-filled 90 that like you open the door and it like pushes you back into the house. Like it's just like, no, you really don't want to be in here. Just yeah.
Yeah, it's the kind of weather that puts trees in the mood for love.
Keep my face up, Let's say hello to the wonderful people in the chat. Hello, Lauren. How are you doing today? I am glad that you are excited for this. I am really looking forward to this one. Hello, Spence. How are you doing today? Hello, Maggie. At least we know what happened to the internet now.
Was it the solar flare?
If I remember correctly, a grass fire took out one of the nodes.
Oh,
So they're
that's not
basically
good.
running internet in her region on a whisper and a prayer.
Oh,
And a little
Wow.
bit of duct tape. Yeah. I mean, at least we know. That's something. Let's see. Hello, Jenna. How are you doing today? Right? How did I get so lucky to have all these wonderful beings here? Hello, Laura. Hey, you know what? At least it's work. I would be happy to be swamped with work other than just, there are things that might someday possibly be needing to be done. Like, my work lately has just been compiling the one to-do list to rule them all and figuring out exactly how I'm going to fit the shock collar on and who's going to get the remote control to it to ensure that I do all the things on the to-do list.
I will gladly become your personal manager.
Because, oh my lord, there's so many things that need to be done. So
But that
many.
also would mean that people would have to pay you or me money so I could be your personal manager.
Links to coffee and Patreon in the doobly-doo down below. Help me employ these people. I need a lot of help. I need Jace for editing. I need Kat for like just yelling at me. Like honestly, like I would say like office manager stuff. I just need somebody to just like yell at me and be like, you're supposed to be doing this, right? Like just guilt.
Is that not the
Old-fashioned
actual
guilt.
work of an office manager?
I mean, I feel like
My mother was an office manager for like 35 years of her career, and it was a lot of quiet yelling at her employers about, you have to file this motion or you will lose the case, that kind of thing.
I feel like calling that which I need office management makes it sound way too glamorous. Like, no, I just be mean. Just be mean. Like, if I'm not getting my stuff done, just make me cry. I will work through the tears. Tears fuel me. Like, just
You're not alone. That's most of my mother's employers.
just destroy me. 80s today. Went for a long ass hike. I will never do another hike around here. Well, let's be honest. Since I matured and found out about everything that's in the woods around here, I have never been on a hike in the woods around here, and I will never go on a hike around here again. My in-laws did not heed my warning, went out into the wilderness, and after 15 minutes came back and we pulled 52 ticks off of them.
oh my goodness. I'm dying to know what Glory's thinking right now.
Did you not tell them that a swamp is an American version of a jungle?
Okay, so
And that Lone Star ticks can cause you to be allergic to red meat for the rest of your life?
Oh,
Or
I
that
warned.
Lyme disease is like a serious and neurologically debilitating, again, lifetime disease that's very difficult to diagnose? Or how about West Nile virus is real? And if you see those zebra mosquitoes, you cannot run because you already done.
They tend to think that I am just biased against the region, and it can't really be like talking about this place sounds so hyperbolic that people think you're just exaggerating how bad it is. Like that same trip, they wanted me to go out to the wildlife preserve and go look at the animals and the wildlife with them. And I said, no, I don't like snakes. And they said, no, you have other things in your steak other than snakes. I was like, no, we have like 16 species of snake. Quite a few of them are poisonous. no, I do not want to go see snakes. And they're like, no, there's more than that. You have deer. I'm like, no, we don't have deer. It's too hot. They've moved north. They've left the area. The floodwaters are coming in. They don't want to drown.
Also, I got to be honest with y'all, deer are nasty. Okay, stay away. Don't ever touch one. They
So
nasty. I am not
They're so
exaggerating.
cute. They are nasty, but they're so cute.
No. They're not nasty. They
Don't touch 'em.
nasty. Like nasty. Like you can't rehabilitate them. They nasty.
So they went out to the national park and they're sitting there talking to the park ranger. What can we expect to see today? And she's like, well, we've got a lot of cottonmouths and copperheads on the trail right now. So be very careful looking at them. The Rocky Mountain rattlers are really, really bad. And we don't know why they're here because we thought that they'd been wiped out and pushed back west. But apparently they're back in the region again. And just started listing all of the wonderful poisonous snakes that are everywhere. And they were just like, I guess we're not going to go for that hike.
Cottonmouths are resentful.
They're villainous.
They imagine the most ticked off drag queen you have ever seen, and then now give it an exponent of 10, right? Like they are so ticked off at the world. I think this is what bad drag queens get reincarnated as cottonmouths. They are nothing to trifle with.
During the summer, one of our favorite things to do is we'll get in the car and there's a road that parallels the river because everybody goes to the river. That's what people do in the summer around here. They just all go to the river. But there's a road that goes right next to the river. So we just go get in the car, we drive by the river, and we count all of the boats that the cottonmouths have claimed and stolen from their owners. Because they will leap out of the trees and claim your boat. Your boat is theirs now. It is no longer yours. You cannot have it. And this is why we don't go out on the river, because I don't need to spend the money on a boat only to donate it to the local wildlife. I don't need this mess. I don't.
So why do people live out there?
I don't know.
Orneriness? It's orneriness. They're just ornery. Okay.
I know. I can speak for at least half of my family moved here because they originally settled in Kansas and a sky kaiju ate their house and they went, God does not want us to be here, and came here instead.
I literally Googled it. There are only 6 poisonous snake species in the entire state of Mississippi out of a total of 55 snake species. That's right. 49 of them are wonderful creatures, including the king snake that eats all the rats. I have run over a king snake by accident 2 different times, and it still slithered away.
And
so,
if you want
go eat more rats. They're wonderful.
And if you want to know exactly how messed up our state is, and you want a idea for the weirdest conspiracy that you could try to pull on a small town for revenge, Google Cobra, Springfield, Missouri hoax. Because it actually wasn't a hoax. A guy got mad and was literally buying and releasing cobras into the wild in Springfield so he could get paid to retrieve them.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh,
This is the thing that actually happened.
In 1953?
Yep.
Oh, man.
This is a thing that actually happened. It's bonkers.
There were 11 of them.
Yep.
Dang.
oh my God. Why?
So apparently there are only 9 common species of snake in California. Only 9 out of the whole state.
And it's a big state.
So
It's a
I mean,
huge-
You're not one of the little states.
We're a
If you were-
huge state.
if you were writing realistic fiction and you're just like, how ludicrous can my story be and still be realistic? Just Google my state. Just Google Missouri and be shocked at how cartoonish your story can still be and technically be real. Because our ex-governor Greitens is running for Senate right now, and he got kicked out of office because he had a literal sex dungeon that he had women tied up in against their will and was blackmailing them to be down there. But that was a year ago, so I mean nobody cares anymore, right?
Only a year ago, and I haven't heard about that. How did I not hear about that in the news?
I've been talking about this forever because nobody covers our state. Yeah, this whole thing happened like there's a videotape and everything And he's just like, well, that was like in the past. Like, does anybody really care?
Quick question. What are ramps?
Oh, ramps are like these lovely oniony type wild plants that grow out in the woods,
Yeah.
and they're delicious.
Hmm.
And there's a lot
They're
of things.
basically like wild onions.
They
Really,
are a type of, of the alum family.
Mm.
they deadly to me.
Yes.
Oh no.
But for the rest of us, they good eatins. And I have recently come across several videos talking about different kinds of things you can make with ramps. So I was just curious what to make.
So, yeah, I'm just, I kind of feel like I should go through and grab some actual newspaper headlines from my state. So in a couple weeks from now, when we do world building for the real world, I have like actual articles I can drop into chat and be like, and here's how ridiculous y'all can get. Because like my personal little city here, we have been through, see, in the 14 years I've lived here, we have had 9 different mayors because 8 of them have embezzled money from the government and ran off to the Virgin Islands. One after another, after another, after another. This is apparently our city's type. We really find them sexy. We vote them into office like, oh, you look like you're going to just steal.
And also don't change the finance laws after a bad mayor. They're just like, no, let's make it a bit easier for the next one.
Yeah.
Because the playbook has already been established by the previous.
Yeah.
So this is how you too can get rich quick.
Yeah.
Just make sure you have a valid passport.
Have you thought about running for mayor? I know that you have a couple things you're saving up for. You too.
I'm queer and don't want to get shot. So, 2, they're trying to get my husband to run for Congress right now. And we have been debating survival rates. Like, as queer as we are, what is the likelihood of surviving a campaign in this area? Because I don't feel like they're all that high. I really don't feel like they're
fun fact, there are some really excellent grassroots campaigning manuals available for free download online.
Yep.
If anyone is interested in running in their local elections, which I would like to really encourage everyone who's ever thought about it, you know what? It's a job if you get it. And if you didn't, hey, you got to meet some people. Maybe people gave you some free donuts. That's cool. And people know your name. Maybe they know that, like, you've got, I don't know, let's think about reasonable viewpoints to, like, make people on the extreme ends look like the extremists they are. So I just want to throw that out there. If anybody needs help, as I am all of y'all's personal research reference library, including everybody in the chat. So you just reach out to me if you're having any trouble finding these wonderful, delightful, free of charge grassroots campaign manuals, and I'll be happy to help you. Because I'd like to encourage reasonable people to run for office.
Just be careful if you're on disability. You can lose your disability if you are elected to any like official position.
Only if it pays well. So in the state of Mississippi, most local elected officials get paid literally less than $10,000 a year. So it will not affect your disability. So you too can be an older person and keep your disability. But anyway,
just be careful and keep that in mind when you're setting up your campaign. Yeah.
Or talk to your local research reference librarian who is available.
Yes.
Yeah, I told Brian if we ever did decide around here to run for office, we would just make knockoffs of all of the used car commercials from the movie UHF and just substitute political office for all the words. Like, I don't know where we're going to get the seal that we're going to threaten a couple times, but like, I'm sure we can find a way. It is.
Are you speaking of an animal seal or like a stamp seal?
In the one of my favorite used car commercials in the film UHF, which I'm going to call cinema, just to like have somebody's head just exploded because I said that. Where in the world just he literally threatens to club a baby seal if you don't come down and get these
Oh, that's
seals.
right. Oh, I had blocked that out
Oh,
because yeah.
So what you need to do is get a really cute stuffed animal.
Yes, you could. They sell baby seal stuffed animals, by the way, and they are super duper adorable. That's right. You get a
Don't
tiny
make
little
me hurt
Nerf
the mango.
bat to go with it. They make
Don't
those.
make me hurt the mango. Alrighty. It's been a fun week. All right, so I love the culinary discussion that's going on. Let's talk about the 5 stages of world building for Panthers. Now, when I say 5 stages, these are umbrella terms for the various stages and states that we go through when we're coming up with our stories and making sure that we are keeping ourselves on track. Because depending on how you pants, because this is the biggest problem with doing anything for pantsers, none of us do the same thing. Like, I generally start my story at the beginning right through to the end. I don't skip around. My brain will not let me do that. I have to tell my story in chronological order. Whether or not the finished version will be in chronological order or not, I have to write it in chronological order. That's just how my brain works. So you will have to adapt this to your method. This is just how I have figured out how to make things work. So for anybody who is new to Fantasy First Aid, here's what we're going to be doing. I and the wonderful people here are going to be talking about the various states and stages along the way in putting our stories together. Any questions that you have, just put them in the chat. Any problems that you are currently having with your world building, go ahead and put them in the chat. We would love to answer them. The whole point and purpose of the stream is to help your fiction get better. Alrighty? Having said that, stage 1. Prewriting, or what I like to call the minimum viable world. Mainly because I love lean processes. I come from the coding world where everything is, if I can't
Agile.
if I can't make an agile pivot table to do it, like how is it supposed to ever get done? Like, I don't understand. Like, how is anything supposed to happen? So before you start writing, and I cannot stress this enough, if you are wanting to have consistency, if you are wanting to avoid major rewrites later, and by major rewrites later, I mean you get to the end and you write this wonderful ending that cannot happen in the world that you created for yourself, so you have to retroactively rewrite everything leading up to that end. Speaking for a friend, of course, I've never done that in the past, ever. That has never been a problem that I've had,
No, never.
Just postulating into the wild. You need to start with your minimum viable world. Now, this is going to look different for every person in every story. And I wish I could say, here's the simple formula. Have this, this, and this, and you're fine. Your minimum viable world will have to contain, at the bare minimum, 2 characters, because you have whatever your character you're going to be following in the story as your protagonist, and whoever is either operating as a contagonist or an antagonist to them. Contagonist is a word I've realized a lot of people do not know. Contagonists have a similar through line to a story, but are not necessarily in direct opposition. So a rival story could be a contagonist story where they are potentially a rival. They could be taking things away from our hero, from our lead character, from our protagonist. Generally, their function in the story, if you're using a contagonist rather than an antagonist, is there's something that the contagonist is doing that the protag either needs to learn never to do that, or that they need to do that more. Usually they are there as a training implement that once they realize, oh, you're always succeeding because you do this thing, let me do that thing. Oh, wow, look, I'm succeeding. Or you're succeeding because you're cheating. If I expose your cheating and continue going on being the virtuous, wonderful person that I am, I will win. In fact, Pokemon is a really good example of what a contagonist is. Team Rocket is not an antagonist in the series. They're contagonists throughout the series for the most part, because they are competing with Ash for all of the prizes and all of the things. And Ash has to basically learn, am I going to be like them, or am I going to rise above and be better? And because it's the style of fiction it is, it's always rise above and be better, because I almost switched over to Yu-Gi-Oh! And said, believe in the heart of the cards, just to anger all the anime people. But I'm just going to point out that I was going to do that, but didn't.
Point for you and your self-control.
That was as much self-control as I had, was to just say that I really wanted to
It
do a
took
thing.
all those cups of coffee to get you to this level of self-control, and now it's done.
It's gone. It's gone. It's going to get wild from here, y'all.
Yeah, that's
So definitely make sure that you have those basic elements that you need for your story. So if you are writing Star Wars, when George Lucas originally started working on this story, if we go all the way back to draft 1, you can see the minimum viable world that he had for this. He already had, from the very beginning, a concept of the Force that, for the most part, remained unchanged through all of the drafts that followed. He had an idea that there would be some kind of ongoing civil war that was going to be pitting all of our heroes and villains against each other. And he had this idea that there was going to be some layer of like Arthurian knighthood over, so that we were going to be using titles like king, prince, princess, king, queen, emperor, all of those words. Those basic elements of world building were there at the very beginning, and allowed him to write, I believe, the 8 drafts before he got 6 or 8 drafts before he even got to a shooting script for Star Wars. He also had the character of Anakin Starkiller, who basically gets cut in half and becomes Anakin Skywalker and Luke Skywalker, because literally his story gets cut in half. All the backstory goes to Anakin, and all the story going forward goes to Luke. Because that was originally all done by one person in the earliest drafts. A character named Mace Windy, who ended up getting kind of cut out of the story, but really keeps showing up in background characters throughout the entire series, whether it's Mon Mothma or Admiral Akbar or General Dodonna. We keep seeing shades of Mace Windy, and he, of course, gets repurposed eventually into Mace Windu and gets to actually come into the series later. And Obi-Wan Kenobi was Obi-Wan Kenobi from Draft 1. He's the only character whose name did not change in the entire process, was Obi-Wan Kenobi. So he had his basic characters, his basic cast. He had the idea of the Force, and he had the idea of the Civil War, which is at its heart what Star Wars is. Almost every Star Wars project that comes after it, whether it be the Droids animated series, the Ewoks animated series, which do not deal with the larger galactic war, it is still there in the background. While none of these stories have Jedi in them, the idea of the Force is present in all of them. You can see that basic world building in all of it. So when I'm saying you need your minimum viable world, you have to ask yourself, what are the minimum elements here that make your world your world? When Frank Herbert wrote Dune, he actually wrote that after doing an article about the ecosystems on the Portland coast, where he was fascinated by the dunes and how these are basically moving ecosystems that just march up and down the coast and carry with them animals that only live in those dunes, that they don't leave behind as the dunes themselves are moving due to wind and erosion. And he was fascinated by that, and you can see all of that get built into his world, from the elements that exist only in the environment that make that such an interesting place for them to live, which turn into the spice melange, that one essential thing that they all need. You can see this reflected in the sand trout and the worms, because I know it's shocking that he became obsessed with the worms in the dunes on the coast of Portland and then wrote Dune, but surprise, I'm sorry to shatter your world.
I know,
there.
it's like you pulled the curtain back and ruined it for me.
But if you actually read the article that he wrote about the coastal wetlands of Oregon, and then read his work, you can see all of his inspiration was in there. He became obsessed with it, and especially obsessed with the politics that control the governing of this coastal region, and how the religion of the indigenous people was clashing with the colonizers who took over the area and claimed that their religious beliefs should dominate in here, and that their political structures should control the region. All of this is in that original article he wrote, literally about the coastal wetlands of Portland. And that's 5 books. I mean, that
I
is.
think what you meant was 5 books later. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm a bit chaotic today.
It's true, though.
I literally made one of my best friends wait outside for more than a half hour today because I did not see any of their messages, and it wasn't until I was drinking coffee going, I wonder what happened to them. Check my phone, and I'm like, they were literally just sitting out there in the heat
Oh no.
with our sandwiches. So ADHD is real. She was not mad. She knew who she was dealing with. I had cake for her. She forgave. I made her a copy of my cake. I'm still working on my cake. Yes. Look at that.
So, looking here in the chat, I see Eva say, I am a plotter, or am I just here? I'm just here for the company. I have to say, this is something that if you're doing an outline, I have helped people with their outlines that did not have this minimum viable world. And that's why they kept getting lost in their outline. Your basic world building, whatever it is. And like I said, the reason I'm using both Dune and Star Wars is because when you actually see how they boil down to just their bare bone minimum requirements, which then get 2 things that get added in draft 3 for Star Wars, which are the droids and all of the fantastic beasts. Those are 2 ideas that got introduced in the 3rd draft of the script that, again, is hard to imagine Star Wars without now, from the Rancor to everything else. You have to have that base idea of where you're coming from. When I started writing Child of Centuries, a friend of mine that I was at a convention, and a friend of mine who was busy working on doing a reboot of a game for Wizards of the Coast asked me what I was doing. I explained the story to him, and he just looked at me and laughed and said, so you're writing Crouching Tiger, Hidden Starship? And I lost it. I just broke down laughing because I did not, that wasn't what I was thinking. But that one-liner became the one-liner that every time I was like, what is going to happen in the story? I would just laugh, and I would hear Ryan in the back of my head say, so it's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Starship. And go, okay, so either what would happen in a wuxia film, or what terrible thing happens as a space complication. And that gave me the movement to go forward. While that wasn't necessarily everything I needed for a minimum viable world, it was enough to, every time I hit a roadblock, and go, oh, okay, so a mysterious stranger walks in. Because when in doubt writing wuxia, just have a mysterious stranger show up who has one martial arts ability that nobody quite understands how they managed to do that. This is the solution to all of your problems in wuxia, and I love it. And it if you've read the Legends of the Jade Moon books at all, which are now free over on World Anvil, you can see exactly the moment that happens in the story. Like it's not even hidden, because it worked so well that he just shows up like a weird gunslinger, but with magic and swords in this space opera thing, because I have problems. And it's one of my favorite scenes in the entire book of, oh wait, who are you? Why are you here? Why is this even wait, what? And I love
Charlie, the way I see it is like, because my degree is actually in unofficial Montessori, for licensing reasons, my university. Anyway, that's a whole nother matter. But in Montessori, the Montessori philosophy is when you are actually teaching the important information, it should help all learners, whether it directly applies to the information they're
Yep.
looking for or it only indirectly helps build a basis of knowledge. It will help everyone, just to differing degrees. And that's how I think of this, like, because I am not as often a pantser at all. I prefer to have sort of a basic idea, but everything, like that you're talking about, I still see the validity of how it applies to my experience as a writer. So I don't think you have to be a specific pantser, plotter. Let's see, there's the planter. I don't know. I can't. All
Planter.
these names sound
Yeah.
like astrology for writers.
Right?
I don't know. I'm a Libra rising with a pen, y'all. I don't know what to tell you.
I am whatever makes the project done. If I have to do an outline, if I have to pants it,
Yeah, get her done, right?
whatever gets that first draft done is what I do.
But yeah, I think it helps all writers, just for maybe it fills in different spaces, but this knowledge is still useful knowledge. It's a waste of no one's time or energy to listen.
And I feel like I'm one of those people that, I know it's because I am a pantser at heart, but I feel like everyone is a pantser because that's what your outline is. See, I go straight to draft. I don't take the time to go through the process of making a very slimmed down version of it. If I can't see it, I will lose interest in it. I need to write the description. I need to write the dialogue. I need to really flesh it out, or I lose interest in my writing very, very quickly. Some people have a power that I wish I could understand, where they could just say they walk into a room. Oh, if I could only just, I would be so much happier. Because so much of my writing process is actually editing out, why did I spend 3.5 paragraphs describing this space that don't matter at all? Because if I'm not seeing it, if I'm not having that really visual experience of writing, and so that's what makes me a pantser. See, the nice thing about this is it's on YouTube. So if you don't take notes, it will still be here. You can always rewatch.
That's what I said in the next comment.
Yeah.
I'm going to be rewatching and taking notes later.
Exactly.
So and hello, Nikki. Okay, so how do you figure out what you need for your minimum viable world? For me, it's just a couple key points. And it starts with, what is the germ of the idea? What is the thing that you are so enraptured by that it makes you want to write this? That's your minimum viable world. That's really what it is. When the plot bunny that I'm working on right now is basically a protracted argument between a friend of mine in a fan society and myself that spawned off into a fan fiction that spawned off into, this has nothing to do with the original story anymore. Why am I still using somebody else's world? Like, this doesn't even make sense to even call it fan fiction, because none of the characters are anywhere like their originals. And it's an argument. And that was what dictated what this story world looks like. It is all written up in my initial notes to get me through this as syllogisms. If this, then that, and that, therefore this. Because the arguments that are being made in the story, the arguments are being made through the characters, and I'm pretty sure by the time this is abstracted out into an actual story, that structure will disappear and be invisible. But the argument about mainly around tiny universe syndrome, which is a problem that all science fiction has, where no matter where you go in the galaxy, you meet your best friend. You didn't know that they were going to be there, but oh, look, we're at this weird random festival out in the middle of nowhere. Hi, Londo. Not to call out a franchise that I kind of love, but seriously, to be there? Really? Just pure happenstance, right? Small galaxy syndrome is a huge problem in science fiction, and that is the entire premise of Plot Bunny. Is it is such a small galaxy for this one particular thing that everybody, all of the big bads, happen to be in the same place at the same time looking for the same people for extremely different reasons. They all have a different motivation and a different reason to want the people that they're after, but they all happen to be in town at the same time to get the same people because reasons. So I need to know what those reasons are. Why are they why are they there? Is there a secret reason why they converge? Like, I really seriously thought about, is one of them secretly their children? Because there are magic orphans in this story, because of course there is. It's a sci-fi story about tiny world syndrome, but I'm not going to spoil the answer to that. But that was a question that had to be answered before I could start writing, is who is secretly related to each other and who actually knows and who doesn't. All of those tiny galaxy problems had to be worked out in this really niche city, one on one planet where all of my characters are going to meet. And it really is about maybe 2 pages of notes that I ended up coming up with. I named all the people, I named all the places, I wrote up there just a couple sentences on all of their backstory so that I knew who they were, why they were there, and a little bit about what messed up confluence of events happened to get all these people in the same place at the same time. And of course, because it's sci-fi, the super fun reason, which I will spoil, it wasn't by accident. There is, of course, a secret mastermind behind this whole thing the whole time.
Like,
And
random thing. My brain is just like imagining like all these bad guys wanting to go after this one group of people, and they're just like, no, I'm getting rid of them. You're not getting rid of them. What are you doing here? Or, what are you doing here? These are my enemy. No, they're my enemy. And they're just like also fighting each other because they're like, no, they're my enemy.
basically, yeah. It is basically a farce. Like the first 10 chapters
Like the
of the
playground
story.
squabbles. They were my friend first.
I was here to get them first. I was. Literally, like the first 3 chapters of the book are introducing all of the people that are there to get the people. Because you need to know their motivation as to why they're all there to get what turns out to be the same people. And it makes me so happy because we're starting at this place of tiny galaxy syndrome that is then going to spawn out into all our characters are going to go off in very different directions, and it's going to actually widen out a lot. But it all started from this one argument, and that became my minimum viable world. When I was creating the Shadow Phoenix Saga, my MVP for that was very simple. I wanted this to be easily fantasy that's easy to understand and plays with every trope in fantasy I could think of. So, of course, all of our villains are elementally based. Of course they are. Why wouldn't they be? But maybe not in the way that you would be assuming that they would be. So I'm playing around with why our Fire Phoenix is the way that she is, because, oh, honey, she's special. And don't even get me started on our air spirit, who is a gossip. Like, oh my God, y'all are going to love him when you get there. But I wanted to play with all the, it was literally, let's put all of my favorite and least favorite tropes in a basket. And I basically just made a list of what had to make this world. And then started running forward to that. The opening chapter, which I think it's public. I'll have to check during our first sprint. But the opening chapter of book 1 in this series, everyone is the chosen one. Everyone is the chosen one. You're the chosen one. And you're the chosen one. You're the chosen one. Everyone is literally the chosen one.
Please,
because bad things
please say
happen.
you have like an Oprah equivalent.
the gods literally panic and just start like randomly wildfire like, no, now you're the chosen one, and you're the chosen one, and everyone is the chosen one, so that by the time all of the chosen ones get together, I think is it chapter 13? I think it's chapter 13 of the book is literally basically the chosen ones convention,
No.
where they've all like met each other and realized, oh crap, we're all the chosen
But
ones.
I was told I was special. Oh, honey, they told everyone here they were special. They bad news. That's how you know your God is a toxic God.
Because
oh Lord,
I like, it's so ingrained in fantasy that your story is of course going to follow the chosen one. What if the gods just panicked and just every god kind of started choosing one or more chosen ones? Like, I don't know, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. Like, our sweet, sweet goddess of death, basically anybody who died in the opening salvo of the battle became her chosen one. It's like, oh, you're all here? Fine. You're chosen. Be reborn! Because panic. Like, just sheer panic.
yeah, like more than a few gods trying to cover the spread. How about if I just make most likely to succeed all chosen? Right? Someone will make it to the finish line to like proclaim my name. Right. Yeah. What could go wrong? Absolutely nothing. This is my brilliant plan. Like, they'll never realize I'm playing the field. You know, like,
hello, Nia.
Unless they go to the chosen one convention. And then they find out that it's not one person gets a crown, but like every person here.
But yeah, so once I knew that, I understood, okay, I can just go there. So when the idea for the murder radishes came into my head, well, of course they're going to be in the story. When on a freaking live stream on Jace Maxwell's channel, we started making jokes about pole dancing wizards. Of course, that short story not only got written and is up on the Discord if you haven't read it, but I changed one of the characters permanently into a pole dancing wizard, because once I actually wrote the story, I was like, this is fabulous. How did I not have this in the world before? And so one of the characters has been changed. Like, her destiny has been rewritten as a result of this, because the whole point of the story is the ridiculousness that is epic fantasy. Why not embrace it? Stop trying to do realistic epic fantasy. It's boring. I don't care about all your boardroom meetings and all of your like things to try to make this more realistic. Like, literally, she has a dragon. Like, what more do you need to know about military superiority? She has dragon. We don't need to have like this like angsty soul searching thing of like, can we do it? Yeah, as long as you don't forget that crossbows exist. Yes, you can do it. But seriously, if you're dumb enough to forget that crossbows exist, then you deserve to lose all your dragons. Just saying. And no, I wasn't.
I'm not going to give away exactly what happens, but there's a point in my plot bunny that is currently that I just started releasing on Vela, where they need to get away to like get away from the bad guys, and I had this idea, and I'm like, it's so tropey, but I love it. I'm gonna do it.
Hello, cool gamer. But that's the heart of it, because once you have that, it will fuel your writing. Like, this is good whether you're pantsing the story or anything else, because every time I get to the point where I'm like, why am I writing this 5-book epic about these ridiculous characters? Like, literally, the magical furry and his murder radish friend are trying to save the world from a giant firebird. Like, why am I doing this? Did you not see what happened in the news recently? I go back and I read these early notes, and they're just so stupid and they're so ridiculous. I start giggling. I start laughing. And I'm right back into it. I'm like, that's why I'm doing it, because I need to laugh and other people do too. And I keep going forward. So whatever it is, this is just the kernel of the idea. If you've read Stealing Fire from the Gods by, I'm just going to pick a name and say Bonnet. I don't know. Say your name out loud. I've seen interviews with you, and everybody just calls you John. Right? Is it like Rumpelstiltskin if somebody says your last name? Anyway? I'm picking. It's Bonnet. It's Bonnet. Anyway, if you've not read that book, it's a wonderful book on world building. I have an entire season of my podcast dedicated to working through it and coming up with your world building there. But this would be what he refers to in that book as your fascination. What is your fascination, and what is the quintessential of your fascination? What is that one thing that just holds your attention and you can't let go, that makes you want to make this story happen? And I'm going through my ridiculousness right now, but you can see this very obviously in things like The Gilded Age, which I know Carrie and I are both obsessed with. Its minimum viable world is very clear, and because it's not The Gilded Age, it's not the title, it's literally this one street corner in New York at this particular time where an old money family and a nouveau riche family are literally living across the street from each other, and no one is happy about it.
So
That's
bad.
the world. And that's what you need to know to write that story. Everything else is great.
There are
Everything
scenes
else
that
can get
take
added
place elsewhere, but the main heart of the story is these two homes.
Because this is where I think we get lost in our writing when coming up with what is the world. And this is where world building disease really kicks in, when we're not limiting ourselves to this minimum viable world. Because, well, of course I need to know, what are all the festivals that they practice? What's the calendar look like? Exactly how is everybody dressed for summer and spring and fall? What is the winter wardrobe like? Because, yeah, I'm into fashion, okay? I've got a problem. But if the story does not take place in fall or winter, I don't need to know how they dress in winter. That's outside the scope that I need for my minimum viable world. I can eventually figure that out and put it up in my world building, and it's great information to have. But it's not something that I need right up front, right at the inception of the story.
I was just gonna click on that. I was
Right? Oh wait, wrong time period. Right?
Yeah, because tropes.
Oh.
Why are tropes tropes? Because we like them. Because we gravitate toward them. That's why they're tropes. It's, lean into the fun. If it gets you excited, it's probably going to get other people excited too. Have a good time.
So if you're writing science fiction or fantasy at this stage, especially if you're writing science fiction, to all of my friends out there who are writing science fiction that I get messages from, you, until this book gets published and those readers find you, no one cares how your faster than light engine works. Unless it is integral to the story. If you're writing Event Horizon, where you're literally having the ship jump through a nightmare hellscape and picking up demons along the way and coming back, so it's like integral to the story and the plot, nobody cares. You can figure that out later. Just go watch the Stardock video of the 10 types of faster than light travel. It's right there. They list all of the ways in science fiction, and it can literally be simplified to 10. There are 10 ways people have traveled faster than light in science fiction. Go watch their video, pick the one that you aesthetically are drawn to, and balonium the answers in later. You don't have to have it figured out. You don't need to know how the engine works. You don't need to know how they deal with the light barrier. Unless that, again, is integral to your story somehow. You don't need to know. But Charlie, right? I'm not saying I have not written songs for festivals that have been in my worlds, but that's those were for books that actually got written and were done. So
I can just picture a songbook that you would write for your stories and just like have it as a side content.
One, I'm a huge fan of folk music, which is folk music but with a sci-fi parody bent. Huge fan of the genre, and would love to have like all the folk written about my stuff. But when Anne McCaffrey gave her imprimatur to that wonderful album, Master Harpers of Pern,
Mm.
which if you have not heard and you are a fan of her writing, hunt it down. It is beautiful, and Anne gave full approval all the way through to the end of that project. Some of the songs are lifted directly from the pages of the books. Others are songs that she helped co-write with them to make them work. If you want to know what it sounds like in with Robinson playing his flute in the Harper's Hall, that track exists, and Anne gave it the seal of approval. It exists. It's there. It's beautiful. It is a wonderful album. Yes, I would like these albums for all of my stories, please.
And I know at one point some of the versions of her audiobooks, they played little bits of it, which was amazing, because that's how I got into Anne McCaffrey, was actually through Dragon Riders of Pern.
It's such a good album. Damn, right? Oh my goodness. Yes. Smartest thing Anne did. Yeah. It is such a good album. The music will just transport you away, and and I think especially nowadays, as we are considering how to do creativity in the 21st century and beyond, I think we need to be hunting down those collabs that we can do with people to get our work out there like that. If music is integral to your story and you can find someone who is capable and willing to co-create that music for the story, that's cross promotion for both of you, because they will be promoting that, hey, all of these songs came from this world in this book series, and you will be saying, hey, you want to hear what these songs actually look like? They're over here. And thank you for sharing the link to the album, Maggie. That is awesome. But yeah, that's your minimum viable world. So I talked about that for a lot longer than I thought I would, but I think everything else is going to be fairly simple and straightforward after this. So I think I'll still be able to hit all 5 in a timely manner. I was going to do sprints during this because, one, I really want to get some work done on Plot Bunny, and my coffee cup is empty.
Can't have that. Gotta have a full cup for sure.
Before we run off for a brief break, and they're not going to be long sprints because we do have a lot of, at least I have a lot of the mouth flappies to do. Well, let's be honest. I don't know that I'm even talking sometimes. There are times where I feel like half of my communication is just making incoherent noises that people find entertaining. So it's some of it's talking, some of it's just the that seems to work as dialogue for some reason. It's fine.
Taz talk.
There are several reasons I used to be called Taz. That was one of my nicknames for a very long time. The fact that I very easily fall into incoherent noise making would be one of them, not the only one.
Practice, I'll let you out in just a second. Calm down.
That would be great. I've been trying to create music for your work, but yeah. And there are wonderful tools that will help you meet people for this. There are wonderful programs that will help you reach out and meet people with this. I'm really curious what Soundtrap is doing, because they have just introduced a whole collaboration tool in their music making and sound recording software. And I'm getting a lot of emails from them about their upcoming collaboration system. And I'm wondering if they're basically going to make a matchmaking system to help get people to get together for projects.
I gotta highlight Nikki's comment because it's just so cute.
I think everybody thinks I'm weird, and I think it's weird when people don't think I'm weird. So
it says weird equals cool.
I rather enjoy weirdness. It is one of my favorite things. in the world. Like I said on Instagram the other day, growing up is for amateurs. And this is really what I'm talking about with that. Because if you're not having fun, like, I'm not saying don't pay your bills, don't do the basic things that you need to stay alive as a human being in a capitalist society. What I'm saying is that idea of you have to stop having fun because you've reached a certain age. You have to grow up and be mature and not enjoy your life. Sorry, YouTube, but fuck that. Just no. No, that's how you get a life that you do not enjoy. So much of our life is grim, dark, punishing. If you're not bringing light into it, where are you going to find the light?
Mm-hmm.
So, hunt it down where you can find it. We are a very similar tribe. We are a very similar tribe. Okay. I don't know how many people are a fan of Tail Foundry. They are one of my favorite YouTube channels. I rewatch their videos for inspiration all the time and just
They
absolutely
are very inspiring.
love and adore them. Given the state that I have been in recently, I have been kind of nope. Thought I had that muted. I did not. Sorry about that. I have been watching and rewatching their wonderful, wonderful video, which is, I just put a link to in the chat, which is called What Makes Writing So Hard? And I have these
Me too.
I have these feelings in myself all the time because it's not burnout. I think we confuse the emotions that they talk about in this video with burnout. It is not burnout. It is putting unfair expectations on both ourselves and our writing that are paralyzing. And while I have read the book that they recommend at the end of this on numerous occasions as well, and have the audiobook version that I have play in the background quite often, they talk about Bird by Bird at the end of the video. Great book, wonderful book. If you're a writer and you have not read that book, get thyself to a bookstore. It's a very, very good book. But I've been listening to it more or less to just not feel alone. You know, it's that whole thing that when you get into your head about how you don't want to do things, you don't feel like doing things, you start telling yourself, and I'm the only person who ever feels this way, because that isolation makes it stronger. Like, this is how the darkness gets you, is it makes you feel alone, it makes you feel isolated, it makes you feel like you're the only one experiencing the things that you're experiencing.
Yeah, I tell myself, nobody cares about this but you. Nobody cares about this. Why are you putting yourself through a literal ringer emotionally? Not literally. Nobody cares. You're the only one. Why are you doing this to yourself? When in fact, that's probably not true, but writing is lonely work, isn't it?
It is very lonely work. And this video is just like, it's where my soul is right now, because I'm very happy. I'm very energized about what's going on. I have a plan, and that is a big part of the problem. Is I have a plan. I can now see a path towards my goals as a writer. I can see a path towards where I'm wanting to be as a writer, and all of the other feelings come up. All of the darkness comes up because, oops, an excuse was taken away. We will get you, my pretty. Like, oh, there are ways we can still pull you down. So if you are going through something like that where you're just like, but why? I used to enjoy writing, but I don't anymore. Why do I not enjoy writing? Why don't I enjoy this? I highly recommend you watch that video, because I don't know if you will feel the same way I do, but it says the things that are in my brain that I don't have words for out loud. Because it's very much how I've been feeling. And one of the reasons why while I should be working on other things, I am working on Plot Bunny right now because Plot Bunny makes me happy. It's stupid. It's silly. You heard how much it brought me alive just talking about it in the first segment. It's I need that. I need that fun. I need that enjoyment. And it also has no pressure because I have no plans to publish it. I might if it's good, if I like it, if I share it around to a couple people, but it's just writing. Reminding me that yes, I do love writing. Yeah, because they don't read the genre that you write. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I many years ago when we moved actually to where we are now, the next door neighbor was a different person, and she was this lovely single mom, and her daughter was like a senior in high school at the time, and she lived here for about 5 years, and she was a really good mom. I think we got to know her a bit, like our first week when we realized as we were moving in that we had forgotten to pack any toilet paper. And we went over there, and she was like, "Oh, here, have a bunch." You know, she was just lovely. So one of the things I used to love to do back when I had energy was decorate for holidays. I am a kindergarten teacher, and that like let's decorate for every holiday. I never grew up in that regard. And, however, Tom and I had talked about it, and he had never had that experience of joyfully decorating for holidays. I had all the stuff, and it was like, fine, here, you do it. I got all these boxes. They're all labeled by holiday. You just put it up how you want to, or don't put up certain things. You do you. Every time he put up anything, our next door neighbor was so supportive. There she was cheerleading Tom, going, I love it. I mean, he put up one wreath and that I had already done. I had already designed it. I'd secured it. But she would just be like, you did such a great job, Tom. And I could hear her through the wall. And I'm just like, but it was because she was that unconditional support mom that every child really does need. And frankly, we all crave. I don't mean to speak for everyone, but I'm going to speak for everyone. We all crave that. Yeah.
Like that feels a little too real.
Right?
His mood.
Because y'all, I would decorate for Halloween and Christmas. Like you'd think that I was busted in money, but instead I had just been shopping clearance for like 20 years.
I want to decorate for Halloween so bad. I have one zombie arm.
I'll send
With
you
a
a
sign
picture
that's-
sometime
That does help me.
of what we did to the front of the house. We literally took all that webbing stuff and covered the front of the house. Children were afraid to come to our house for trick-or-treating because they thought it was seriously haunted or there was big spiders. Also, I had enormous spiders that took up half of a ceiling, and then we hid in the front yard in bushes and then painted their eyes to glow. All right, so anyway, she was so supportive. There was literally, even though there was stuff that was scary and scared our next door neighbor, she was still so absolutely supportive of all of this. We could do no wrong. She was like, it scares me every time I go outside, but I'm so proud of you for doing it. Like, she literally say this stuff. Y'all, what the heck? And I realized that what I needed as a writer was I needed that mom inside me to be unconditionally supporting. But all instead I had was this overly critical voice that just talked me out of it. And so that is what I have now spent nearly 10 years trying to do, is rewrite that voice to become my former next door neighbor, who, by the way, eventually connected with her high school sweetheart on Facebook and ran off, left her father's business, ran off to Oklahoma to marry him because her father was against it. And that's why she never got to marry this guy in high school. Ran off and is now living her best life.
Oh, nice.
I know. Like, she's genuinely happy. He's like, I don't know. He's like this nerdy trucker or something. I don't know. It sounds lovely and romantic from her perspective. So I think about that, that kind of counteractive to the loneliness is that person who, it does not matter how much it's not their vibe, like these scary Halloween decorations, or why did I literally sewed on or zip tied on Santa hats to flying pig decorations and ornaments and called it Christmas ornaments. Y'all, I am that person. I am so extra. I am extra, extra. Read all about it, Glory. You know, like, and she was just like, yay, all of it. It's wonderful. Also, I've never thought of dachshunds as Christmassy, but yeah, this looks great, is what she said. She just was so unconditionally supportive. And I think that that's what every one of our internal writers really needs, is that mom cheerleading on, even though they're like, this is not my vibe and it does not matter. You're doing an amazing job and I'm so proud of you. And I used to think it was so dang fake till I met a real person like this. She is real. She exists. She walks the earth, y'all.
Y'all may remember Bob, my externalized critic, that I often yell at when that voice inside my head is getting a little loud and telling me what to do. And thanks to y'all and y'all's wonderful supportiveness, yeah, we also have now Lugosi. His I like to call Lugosi Bob's evil twin brother, because Bob is the super good boy who always does the right thing, and to hell with you if you're not doing everything perfectly right. Lugosi gives no F's. Lugosi's all about the fun and it's just here for y'all. So thanks to y'all, we have our Lugosi, and for everybody, because y'all named yourselves, we have our cheerleaders that are here to get us through. Because I believe in externalizing things, because when you keep them in your head, you start blaming yourself. There's a wonderful, like, if you've never read Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic, it is a great book for a lot of reasons. And one of it is she talks about the correlation between writers and depression, and how we see this stereotype really come along after we changed in English the way we would phrase the sentence, he has a genius, to he is a genius. That we used to externalize the creativity. It wasn't that person was brilliant. It was that this brilliant spirit came and blessed them with the story. And she has this entire chapter in there, and she also did a TED Talk about it. So if you just want to look up the Elizabeth Gilbert TED Talk about just externalize the muse, just put it out there, yell at it. I'm here. Where are you? why haven't you showed up today? I'm doing my job. If these words are crap, it's not my fault. It's your fault. Because inspiration is like a flighty spirit that comes into our lives. It's here some days, it's not here other days. We have no control over it. It's wherever the wind blows. And I'm a big proponent of this. Like, I don't believe that those skulls that I have on my desk back there are actual people. I hate that we live in a world where I have to constantly explain that to people, but I do, because people get confused. It's fine. But I don't want to beat myself up for being overly critical. And I will do that, because you know what makes you even feel even worse when you're being overly critical? Being overly critical with yourself for being overly critical. It's inception, y'all.
Spirals. Yep.
Oh, no.
So I have Bob. This is how Bob came into being. I would yell at Bob, which started as a bad joke, and then Brian got me the skull, put it on the gargoyle, and there it was. Because I can at least have that pretend time where I'm talking to this thing outside of me and not blaming myself for any of the things that my brain at that point in time wants to call my own inadequacies.
I've been looking for something like that too, but I need like a plushie so I can throw it across the room.
I highly recommend plushies. I am surrounded by them, because I was raised a mab and was not allowed to have all the plushy goodness that I wanted as a child. And I am making up for it in my adulthood. I have all the plushies. I have a plushie budget. I'm already waiting for the new Grumpy OT to go on sale, because it is beautiful. It is beautiful, and I needs it. Because seriously, when I'm having a really bad day, I get my Jamie Dodger out and I will sit it on the desk next to me, because I can just hear him going, "What's up, Spuds?" And it makes me giggle. Like, I look at it and I hear Jamie's voice, that wonderful, "What's up, Spuds?" just yes. And it makes me giggle. It makes me laugh. The same with the OT, the same with the Clicky Cat. They remind me of things that make me laugh, and thus I laugh, and I need all the things. All the things. All of them. So anyway, that's my PSA. If you have not seen Tail Foundry's wonderful video about what makes writing so hard, highly recommend, is very good. Alrighty, so back on topic. The 5 stages of world building for Panzers. We've talked about the first one, which is the minimum viable world. I'm going to pause just for a minute before we go on to number 2. Does anybody have any questions now that we've had time for that to sit with us on either how to find yours, anything in particular? Keep an eye on the chat just in case, because I mean I did talk about it for like an hour, so. I probably preempted a lot of things because, I am who I am. All right. So not edit, put it on the screen. There we go. So, stage 2, pantsing with pockets, the mid-writing capture method. This is important. I don't care what you use. I have used so many tools over the years, from random assorted pieces of paper that I used to scribble things on, that my cats would always hide from me, and then I would never find them again and not know what I was doing. Don't use random assortments of paper. That's the only thing I'm going to say is bad.
You know they got a secret stash, right?
Oh, no. When we moved my office, I found notes from the 3rd book that I did hidden under, like they had gotten somehow under the desk, but like stuck to the bottom of the desk. Like I don't know how they like got under there and was like stuck it up there. Like they weren't on the floor. Like if you put a broom in there, they wouldn't get them. They like, I don't know what that cat did, but that cat, it had plans. Journals.
I'm saying, I've never known a cat without a secret stash. They all have a stash.
All of them.
And there is their happy stash and their I am mad at you, so I take what you love stash.
Okay, so here's where it gets really weird. Minerva keeps running through the house, gleeful as things can be, with plastic straws. We don't know where she's getting them. We do not buy plastic straws. We do not use plastic straws. We don't go to fast food. So we don't bring home beverages with plastic straws hardly ever.
And yet. Pulling them out of a portal, a tiny, you know what it is? You've got a genteel black hole somewhere. They're coming out the other side, and she's like, it feeds me so I don't destroy it. Okay.
She'll do it all the time, and it's just like, and you'll take it away from her, and you'll turn around, and she's got another one, and it's like, where are you finding all of the straws? Where are the straws coming from? I do not. Like, we have searched everywhere trying to find the secret stash of straws, and
the other side of the black hole is like at a fast food restaurant somewhere, like on the other side of the planet.
Who are constantly wondering where all their straws are.
Where are all our straws going? And like, there's a cat in America that really needs it to be happy so it doesn't destroy the world. Yeah.
So, let me just move my plushie out of the way for a second, since we were just talking about plushies. Journals are your friend. I like journals for one major reason. They make me slow down. If I'm having a problem where I'm getting overly hyper or overly fixated on something, that's when my journals come out. It is slower for me to handwrite than to type because my handwriting is illegible unless I sit back and start reciting like I'm in elementary school how letters are shaped. My handwriting.
I swear I word for a profession.
Right. Like my handwriting, like, this is my handwriting with practice, with like effort into it. And it's like, I don't even know what that word is. What is that word that I just put up on the screen? I think it's energy. I think the word is energy. I don't know. Something got crossed in it. I don't know what letter would have gotten Anyway, my handwriting is bad. So it makes me slow down. Journals are
energy tea. I don't know.
I may have just like over-aligned thinking that like this will draw my attention to this word. I do weird things. I've used Evernote. My personal absolute favorite right now is Plotter. Plotter is what I use to capture all of my ideas in process. I also capture my minimum viable world in there. And the reason for that is, and I'm sorry for this up front, I was lucky enough to buy a lifetime membership when they put those up for availability. And they're grandfathering us lifetimers into all of the features for free because they actually meant lifetime. And I'm shocked by that.
Nice.
I'm personally shocked by that. But what I love about it, and this is one of the things that they offer, there are other things that do this as well, which we can talk about as well. But I have it on my phone. I have it on my laptop. I have it everywhere I have a computer because it's also available from the web browser. So all I have to do is go to plotter.com and sign in, and I can access it, add stuff, edit stuff, change stuff, and it will be there when I get back to do my story. That is, to me, the defining feature in how you capture your ideas in process. It has to be ubiquitous wherever you are. If you are the kind of person who doesn't remember to carry your journal with you, find an app for your phone if you carry your phone with you. If not, get a tattoo gun and write it on your arm. Because ink doesn't count. You think it counts, and then somebody spills something on you, or a dog comes up and goes, "I love you," and their little cold wet nose smudges all the writing off, and you're like, "But I don't. I thank you for the love and for destroying all of my world building."
A mood and a half.
Right? But whatever it is that works for you, I have used several apps over the years. I have fallen in love with Plotter a lot. Story Planner is what I used prior to that, which is, as I understand it, still free. I don't think that they have paid, have it to be paid for syncing and stuff like that. But those are the two that I have used the most. I've used Evernote. I've used OneNote. I've used basically every app that has the word note at the end of it, including 3 separate apps that were just called Notes, which, by the way, app stores, can you make people have to register the name of their apps so there's not 3 apps named Notes?
Amen to that.
Because it's really hard to tell people which app you're using when they search that and there's 20 apps with the same name. I don't know, some kind of a system there.
As much as I love journals and stuff for capturing notes on the fly, I've been resorting to binders with a crap ton of loose leaf paper. Then I can rearrange things.
And even though it will interrupt your flow, you need to find out where your flow is interruptible. This, I'm telling you, if you want this to work for you as a pantser, every time you write down a world building element, and I mean every time, this is why I like Plotter, I copy, switch screens, paste, switch screens back, and keep writing. Just do. That way, I said that their eyes are blue. I now have captured into my document that their eyes are blue. Anytime I need to describe their eyes again, I can just switch over and go, what color were their eyes again? So their eyes don't change color 2,000 times in the course of a story. We've all read that book. We've all read that book that was professionally published and no editor caught it. Every world building element that you do. Do you describe a location? Again, why I like using something like Plotter or Story Planner, where you have different ways to tag what you're doing. Go into the Locations tab, copy, paste that description in, move on. Capture as you go. So when they go back to that room, you have the way you described it previously. You have it the way that you had written it up, and you are not messing yourself up again. Do they give some interesting background detail to themselves or to the world? 100 years ago, this entire city was burned down in the Great War of blah, 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 blah. Copy, paste, put it in your notes. Because if you don't, because your mind is obsessed that something bad happened 100 years from now, 2 chapters later, 100 years ago when the plague came in and we had to burn the city down to get rid of the stench of it. And now you have to pick which one happened. Every event, as you do it, copy, paste it over. Do not do this in a Word document. You can do this in Scrivener if you're very meticulous in how you organize. I did it in Scrivener for years. The only reason I don't continue doing it in Scrivener is Scrivener, my sweetie, literature and latte, my sweet, sweet, sweet favorite writing app. Fix your damn syncing. Fix it. It's been years. It's been years since you offered this, and it still don't work. Does not work at all. It doesn't matter how many times we disconnect and reconnect the syncing. Some people are magic, and it works for them. The vast majority, read your reviews. Just read your reviews. Fix your syncing. Thank you. This has been my public service announcement. Because I wrote up a bunch of stuff in Scrivener on my phone. Hit sync. 5.5 hours later, when it still had not been able to sync, 3 weeks later, when it had not been able to sync, I literally typed it back into my document by having my phone open over here in Scrivener and had to type it over. I wish I could say this problem has gone away. It has not. The last, 2 weeks ago, I tried to sync my Plot Bunny when I started it to Scrivener. Simple. Plot Bunny had 1 chapter in it at the time. Wasn't even finished writing it yet. 1 file in it. I waited 3.5 hours for this thing to sync, and it never did. Never sank at all. That's why I don't use them. Your mileage may vary, but based on the reviews I've read of this app, this is a ubiquitous problem for them. But wherever you are, and be militant about it. You need to save these details. You need to remember them for later. They may start adding up to something. One of the things that I have found about my own brain that I love is it's writing fan fiction for my settings while I'm writing the story. So throughout a lot of my stories, there'll be these little details that a character will talk about when this thing happened or that thing happened. And by the time I get to the end and I've cut and pasted it all together, I realize my brain had figured out this whole side story that had happened in the world and was dripping out information about it throughout the entire thing. Yay, I don't have to write that story now. I actually have it. I can just pretty it up and put it up over on World Anvil. I love my brain for that. I wish I knew how it did it so I could give it instructions on how to do that specifically for things. But you need to figure out what is your method for doing this. Are you going to do it at the end of chapters? I very often, if I'm really in flow, at the end of the chapter, before I go on to the next chapter, we'll go through and pull all this out. If I'm just kind of in a place where I'm able to get words, but it's not really in that flow state, as I do it, I will pull them out. But you have to collect it as you're going, because one, you will notice how it will start affecting your story going forward, because you're starting to craft the history of the setting. You're starting to craft all the things we talked about last week when we talked about setting itself. What were the conflicts that took place here? What is this time period? How is it defined? How is it laid out? So finding ways to collect all that up is your secret to success. So try everything that you can. Ask your friends, what do you use? The 2 apps that I recommended work really, really well. Like I said, I've used everything with the word note on it. Evernote, OneNote. Isn't the one that, is it Google Notes, or did they just simplify it to Notes now?
I think it's just called Notes now. Notes.
Because then
Notes?
they also have Google Keep, which is the same but different because it's Google and they have 5,000 apps that do the exact same thing because
Yeah.
why bother? Tried that one.
Yeah, they got 2 different Notes apps, Google does, and it's very confusing.
For no reason, just is. So there are a lot of options out there. Yes, because this is how you can build that as you're going. Also, I'm not saying that I have a large collection of story Bibles that have been done for various TV series and or movies, but some of them are easily available to find or could be asked about and possibly delivered. So you can actually see what a production Bible looks like if you've never actually seen one. It also will help you understand what a minimum viable world looks like. Because if you've never read the original pitch that Gene Roddenberry sent to Lucille Ball for Star Trek, it is recognizably Star Trek. Spock, I think, is the only character that survived that original idea. And by the way, this is before the Christopher Pike pilot. The captain at the time was April. His name was what's his first name? I want to say Jonathan April. It wasn't Jonathan. Can't remember his first name. But yeah, Captain April of the Starship Enterprise. Like, very few things survived from this to even the original shooting script, and then onto the series. But you can still see it as Star Trek. It is what it is. But having that is very important, and I love that you bring up having a setting Bible, because I like to think of pantsing as being a showrunner, because it helps you start understanding all of the things that you need to be keeping in order. You need to be working with your props department so that you understand what are they carrying on them, and understanding that no, they don't have 5,000 pockets. I don't care if this is the future, unless you specifically have a tech or a magic spell that lets them put their hand in a bag and pull out whatever they want. Limit the number of things that people are carrying with them. It will break the fantasy. It will break the story. You need to be working with your setting department and understanding how your settings are going to look. Because if you're writing a steampunk story and all of a sudden you start describing something that belongs in the Bauhaus period of, Europe, it feels weird for that setting. And you need to decide whether or not that remains or not, because that style has picked a very Victorian look and a very Victorian aesthetic. Are you going to buck that trend or not? You need to start feeling that out as you're going. So this stage here, I think, is where a lot of Pantsers world building falls apart. Is they're not tracking it as they go. Because if you don't do this, let me explain to you once and for all the one reason why you do this. If you wait till the book is done, you will not do it. It is a daunting task, because now you have a finished book. You want to edit this book or rewrite this book because you already know some things that are in it that you don't like. Going through and making sure I know, like, how people dress and how I describe the buildings. Like, do I really need to take time to do that? You will find an excuse. And it may be a valid excuse. Like, I said that this book was going to be out by this date. Do I have time to go back and do this? What feels like a vanity project, if I'm honest, to know how the world actually works and make it consistent so readers don't get confused. Not a vanity project, don't I?
It's like you said to yourself, I'm going to scrapbook baby's like first 5 years, and it's going to be great. And you take all the pictures and you get all the little extra doodads and things you want to be sure to memorialize in this book. And then baby turns 5 and you still have not put one thing in the book itself. Guess what? At 18, you're just going to give them a tote with the empty blank book and all the pictures and the glues and everything that have now dried up, and go, here, you can put it together. I have known people who have actually done this to their children.
So,
have you had this experience in life too, getting that?
Yeah, I have heard so many stories about it. And that's why you've got to do it as you go.
Yes.
I have a baby book that's half done.
A world-building Bible is just like that. You're scrapbooking your world, if you're really honest here.
My mom was that rare parent that was like, I didn't have the scrapbooks made like I wanted.
Like, I'm trying to be a good
so
mom.
my mom went.
This is a template. This has like templates in it, and I have like 3 pages filled out.
My mom went through all of her photo albums, all of her pictures on her computer, printed new ones. She went to the store, bought a bunch of scrapbooking stuff, and my mom one year for Christmas made me and both of my sisters each like a photo album that chronologized each of our lives, but left room at the end of it for us to continue adding to it. Like, because mine stopped when I was in early high school. So, like, it doesn't have, like, my graduation or anything in it. But because me and each of my sisters have different dads, so she also included, like, sections for each of our separate families.
Yeah. Your
so,
mom
like,
is
mine
so
has,
good.
like, my dad.
So in the education program, we actually had this course where we learned to be professional tutors. Like, it's specifically to diagnose and treat children with like reading issues. Like, they're behind and there's no, like, they don't have, like, say, a medical condition like dyslexia. Like, I have dyslexia. That would actually be why they're not reading well. It's just they're behind in their reading skills, right? So let me tell you how evil Dr. York was. And I say this, she's no longer at my university. I'm going to say it. Here's how evil this woman was. She said at the beginning of the semester, everybody's going to be assigned a student that they will tutor throughout the semester. One of the requirements at the end is you must turn in a scrapbook of every tutoring session you had with this student, with like a picture of the book and some other information about it. And you have to make 2 copies of it, one for your scrapbook portfolio, which you will turn into her at the end of the semester, and one for your student. So your student at the end of your semester, you actually give them a scrapbook of your tutoring experience with them. So they have something to remember this experience and actually feel positive about. Because normally tutoring kids with reading difficulties is a shaming experience for children. And even like middle school kids, it's shaming. And so this, and I was like, okay. And she's like, here's the challenge, students. We're all seniors. Okay. We're literally one semester away from graduating. She says, if you do not turn in a scrapbook that meets this rubric I am giving you now, you will fail this class. It doesn't matter that you showed up to every session with your student. It doesn't matter that your student, even if your student is now going to read better by the end of the semester, great for them, bad for you because you didn't do the scrapbook, or if you did it the last minute. So what I recommend is after every session that weekend, you scrapbook both scrapbooks if you want to pass this class. And if you don't care and you're going to throw away this degree because this was a required course to graduate, you're going to try to do this last minute, and I guarantee I can tell the difference and you will fail. And you know what? Out of 36 of our fellow classmates, 3 of them did not pass and threw away their degree. And so I was like, oh, she has challenged us. I will just do this every single weekend. There I am learning how to scrap. I've never scrapbooked in my life, y'all. Never scrapbooked in my entire life before this. I'm having to do 2 scrapbooks simultaneously. Imagine I get this and try to like, okay, my scrapbook's supposed to look professional like a teacher's, but his scrapbook's supposed to look appealing to a 13-year-old kid in a 5th grade class. He'd been out for time. He was definitely disengaged from the educational experience. Guess who got A++? He really liked his, which, by the way, I used so many basketball stickers. But 3 students literally failed out because they thought they could just save it for the last weekend before turning it in and they would be fine. And she, like, look, as I said, Dr. York was evil, but she taught me a really valuable lesson. Just do it as you go if you want to succeed. Stop it. That's my alarm to tell me it's 6. Sorry about that. But it's true. Just go, do it as you go. You will have so many less tears, even though you will curse in the moment. I know you'll curse. You'll curse in the moment, but that's okay. You'll have it done at the end, and you'll pass the class, i.e. you'll have a book.
And even if you are a plotter and you think you have done all of your homework ahead of time, please do this as well. Every time you write the description of a place, copy and paste it into wherever you're storing your information about it. Because I have read several books where the walls of a room were described as dingy and then suddenly described as clean or pristine. And I'm like, but who cleaned it? And I'm like waiting for the mystery reveal. of who cleaned this house. While you were out, did elves come in? What happened here? How did this change happen? Where, like, I read one book where the fabric on the couch was apparently reupholstered during the course of the book because it was described with a very distinct pattern in the early chapters of the book, and then later it was described as a single color that was not in the original description. And I'm like, did somebody spill juice on the couch? What happened to the couch? Why? And I'm completely taken out because my brain had already set myself up, so I was seeing this very distinct pattern on the fabric. And now you're describing it. Wait, that color wasn't there. I literally turned back in the book, found where it was described again, read it again. And I was like, but that color's not even listed. That color doesn't even go with this pattern that you described. And you're basically describing a solid colored upholstery thing. Why was the couch reupholstered? Was there a murder?
Murder. Yes, it was the murder couch of my story.
So
soaked in the blood of innocence.
Everyone needs to be doing that because those little consistencies, and we're going to be talking about this a lot next week in bringing reality to the unreal. Those little consistencies matter so much. And the reason they're going to matter to us is when we go to step 3, which is the step that everyone wants to skip. You're going to want to skip. I'm going to put this on the screen and you're going to go, but Charlie, do I really have to? And the answer is yes. Yes, you do. If you want, especially if you're writing science fiction or fantasy, if you want your book to just grab people's attention and have them say oddly complimentary things about the world and how it feels, you're going to do a complete cleanup of your world building as soon as you're done writing. You're going to put your draft away. It needs to sit. You are too close to it. You do not need to be working on it right now. It needs time for you to get some emotional distance between you and that text. And in the meantime, in the interim, you need to go back to all of those notes that you clipped out and pretty them up. Start comparing them. Start making little notices of, oh, wait, I wasn't really paying attention. I should have read my note when I moved this over here. And, oh, I changed their eye color. Okay, check for their eye color. Go through and do the edit. Pretty it up. Not only pretty it up, fill it out. Fill in the details. If you tell me that this city, it looks new and pristine because 10 years ago it was rebuilt after a great and terrible war. Who was warring? Why were they warring? You don't have to give me the entire history of the conflict. You don't need all of that. But who was fighting? Why were they fighting? Why was this town destroyed? Answer those questions now, because that might affect your edits. That might affect how your story goes forward. Was this town a munitions hub? Were they making weapons for the war effort? Well, if your town's a town of pacifists, now you have the justification for that. This is why they're now a town of pacifists. Back in the before time, they were making all the bombs for the big, bad, scary war. And then their town got razed to the ground for it. And now they're like, maybe we're not so good. Like, maybe there was jobs, but, maybe not. And now you have a reason that you can add in your revisions into the story that makes people understand, why are these people so committed to their pacifism? Well, there's why. You may have secretly put a lot of the answers to your why are they this way in your early drafts of world building that you've snipped out. But this is where you go through and you just flesh it out. If your character says, oh, Christmas is coming up, that's my favorite holiday. Why? What is their favorite Christmas? What was their favorite Christmas? What happened? Just write just a little vignette. What happened on their favorite Christmas? Why did that become their favorite holiday? Because that should be reflected in your story going forward. Was it the cookies? Was it the family coming together? Was it the only time of year that people didn't bicker because they were so busy getting drunk and singing carols obnoxiously? What was it? What made them love this holiday so much? If you made it as a one-off comment that you cut and pasted over into their character bio, now's where you flesh that out. Why? Why do they love it? Why is this their favorite song? Why is this their favorite genre of music? Why does that book mean so much to them? If you didn't already answer it, Now is where you answer it. Flesh it out. This is what, if you were being a proper outlining world builder, you would have answered all these questions at the beginning. We're answering them now. And don't let yourself get lost. If you start talking about because of this wonderful statue that their grandfather whittled, I don't need to now know about the farm that he went to harvest the wood and the tools and the company who made the tools and all of that. That is world builder's disease, and it is insidious, and it will find you in the weirdest places that you're like, why am I talking about the history of this chisel? You think I'm kidding? Somewhere, I'm not saying which story that's in, that has happened. But you need don't let yourself go too crazy with it. But you need to be going through and answering all these questions. How is it evil if you don't know if you don't do your work right? You have to. This is where a lot of this comes in, because you will have hand waved, no matter how good you think you are at coming up with world building on the fly. Because trust me, I've met, with the exception of one person that I've met who I am not sure is human, who can literally off the top of his head just worlds into being. And I'm not saying that I'm jealous and that I don't like him for it, but there is jealousy. There is definitely jealousy there. You hand waved things. You will see all of those hand waves where you wrote, oh, they love holidays. That is a boring thing to be a defining trait of a character. What holiday do they love? Do you want to make them seem really odd? Make it Arbor Day. Why do they love Arbor Day? What is it about trees that makes them want to go and frolic every Arbor Day and plant a tree, right? Now you have an interesting quirk for your manic pixie girl. Whatever it is. Figure it out. Figure it out here. But don't neglect this step.
Because it has to be a manic pixie. Why can't it be a big, buff, tattoo-covered biker?
Why can't it be a buff, tattoo-covered pixie?
That actually, all of those, I would read those books. I'm just saying.
I want a pixie biker to come in my life and be like, hey, you're miserable. Get on my hog. Let's go explore the world together. Okay, sir. Bye.
Let me go show you where I plant the
Reminds me vaguely of Lisbeth Salander from the girl with the dragon tattoo.
But make sure that
Manic
all of
pixie
your
werewolf. Sorry. Anyway, I'm letting go now.
This is also where you make sure that all of your world building is specific, because specifics are where you as a writer will shine, even if they don't make it into your story. It may not matter that their favorite holiday is Arbor Day, but if you know that their favorite holiday is Arbor Day, that means they have a certain affinity for trees for some reason. That means when you're describing them going for a walk in the woods, they'll actually be paying attention to the trees and not the grass. They won't be paying as much attention to the path unless there are leaves or acorns or something on it. This will help you bring more into your story that makes the point of view of that character come alive more.
And if they're an extrovert, they'll be sure to be telling you
Mm-hmm.
all about all the trees and the trees you could eat. But I mean, you're right. There's a backstory there. There's probably family related. Why would you be into Arbor Day? But you could have any holiday in your world that is not, directly like such a 20th century American holiday as Arbor Day. But it could be something equally boring and weird. That it's like, why? So like in Judaism, there's Shavuos or Shavuot, depending on which version of Hebrew you speak. And it is, y'all, it's a holiday celebrating dairy products. Okay? It's literally like a cheesecake holiday, if you will. But a cheese holiday, a dairy holiday, okay?
Sounds like a good holiday for
Religiously,
me.
it's not that big a deal, okay? It's not one of the big holidays. It's not one of the important ones where you get locked into the synagogue till everybody, like, I don't know, opens their checkbook or whatever. There's a couple holidays like that. But it's just a holiday to celebrate. We have dairy products, everybody. It's great. And you could have a holiday like that of like we're celebrating dairy products instead of trees or whatever it could be, or mushrooms. And it's just like, why are you into the mushroom holiday? And it's like, well, when I was a little girl, my whole family would go picking mushrooms and then we'd see who'd like live. Because invariably we'd run out of milk thistle. By the way, if you're eating questionable mushrooms, you definitely want to be eating milk thistle at the same time because you'll be dead before you get to the ER otherwise. Fun fact, that's a true fact. Look it up. So, it's like, so we were all like, oh, who forgot to eat the milk thistle? Uncle Herman's not going to make it. And they were pouring milk thistle tea down his throat. Like this is your happy family memory? Look, it's a backstory. It informs the character, okay?
And now you know that they had feelings about that uncle that were kind of sinister and dark.
Also, there's a wild herb that looks similar to milk thistle that you could pick by accident, and then you're still going to die if you happen to eat the wrong kind of mushroom. So maybe Uncle Herb was thinking he was eating milk thistle, fried milk thistles, and instead somebody did a switcheroo. There's a backstory to that. You don't know. Yeah, where is Jessica Fletcher? So, but for them, it's a happy memory of taking back their victimhood and being like, no, I shall thrive. You just make up something. It's something fun and silly. But write it down.
That is awesome, CB. That is awesome. Let's give some snaps all around for that.
Sleep well, dear.
Yes, sleep well.
Good night. Because I can't tell you how many times a character that I didn't really enjoy writing came alive to me at this stage of the process.
Mm.
Because there was a weird, quirky thing, like they put on their favorite shirt. That's all I said in the story when I originally wrote it. And I now have to figure out what is their favorite shirt and why is that their favorite shirt. And in figuring out what the shirt was and why they liked it so much, I finally understood why this character needed to be in the story. And it really informed all of the rewrites for that story going forward. You never know where you're going to find that one thing that makes the world click. So don't neglect this phase. Don't. Neglect this phase at your own peril. I'm not going to name names because I really desperately don't want this to be that AuthorTube channel, though, there are days. There are days. But I will say that there are some very popular fantasy books out there that I would wager all of my copyrights that they skipped this fifth stage.
Mm.
They had a rough idea of the world. They may have collected a few notes to remember some terminology for later, but never fleshed out any of it. So all of it is paper thin. If you've ever read a fantasy story or a sci-fi story, and now we're coming to the part where we meet the aliens, and you feel like it all of a sudden went from like a high-budget sci-fi blockbuster to craft time with the children and something made out of like cardboard and crepe paper, and you're like, why does this feel so empty? Why is everything just like paper dolls moving in front of me? It's a weird hollowness that you can sense,
or a flatness. It kind of feels flat to me when I hit that. Sometimes I don't hit that about one species. It's instead one part of the book.
Yeah.
Where it's like, why is suddenly everything flat instead of three-dimensional? Like the author was really not into this part of the book, which, why aren't you into the story you're telling me?
Because whether or not the details make it into the book, and this is the thing that's hard to get people to understand about world building, whether or not the details make it in, they will color how you write that character, how you edit that character, how you do that setting. For my urban fantasy setting, because it's set in the really real world, and I know the time periods those stories are set in, I will make a playlist that's basically that character's favorite mixtape. Like, what are their go-to songs? What are their favorite songs? So that when I need to understand that character and get into their mind, I can put on that playlist and get to know them. Are you ever going to find out the names of any of those songs? Probably not, unless it matters for some reason in the story. But it informs them so much to know if they're secretly running off and listening to the Carpenters, which maybe like there should be the like gold quest for when uh, the Pearl comes out. So, for everybody who's read The Chain, which character is secretly a huge fan of the Carpenters? Because I think there's enough in there that you might be able to figure it out, but it's not quite as obvious as you might think. But yes, one of those characters goes home and just puts Karen on and listens to Karen sing. Because that is that character's go-to. But I know that informs the way that I think about them when I'm writing them, and the kind of person that they conceive of themselves on the inside, which may be very different from the exterior that they show the world. So that informs the tension that we see in that character, thus making them feel three-dimensional. So go through, do your cleanups, make sure that you understand why, and understand all of the specifics. Because so help me, if you write in your book that their favorite color is red, while yes, we can have very simple colors that are our favorites, if we are honest and start like open the million crayon box with all the colors in it, it's not all of the reds. Now, is it?
It's a certain shade.
Yes, there's certain parts of that they gravitate to. It may not matter for your story if they're more on the magenta side of things than over on the scarlet side of things. That might not matter to you, to your story. It will help you understand them, though. Why do they like that more maroony purple color? What about it appeals to them? Is it the richness of it? Why do they like the lighter, more yellowy colors like over on the side with scarlet? Why those? Is it because it's springy? Maybe, but does that tell you something about them? You can start teasing out a lot of facts about your characters from these little incidental things, and it will really, really help a lot. So the last two we will do in just a minute. I want to stop for a minute and ask if anybody has any questions. Going to give some space for chat to put anything in there and just to kind of double check. I have been keeping an eye on chat as I've been talking, and it's not, and I don't want anyone to feel that I am ignoring them, because I am not. I'm just trying to keep these topic videos as evergreen as I can so that they can help anyone and not do the thing that I want to do and follow all of the plot bunnies that are in chat down all of the little paths. So, okay, question. Why are you so awesome, Charlie? Backstory. Honestly, the world building made me this way, and I'm not even lying. You can only be shot at so many times before you're just like, to hell with the world, I'm gonna be me, and let people either cope with that or not. Because
Also, happy birthday, Laura.
Oh, happy
Laura.
birthday.
the happiness of
birthday.
the last segment is brought to you by Laura Nettles, who introduced me to the wonderful butterscotch chai that I have been drinking this entire time.
Nice.
Happy birthday. As I said to Glory the other day, may the candles on your cake burn like cities in your wake. Happy birthday. I would love to sing the rest of that song, but it gets very blue very, very quickly. If you are not familiar with the song, just look up the birthday dirge. You usually will be able to find it. I highly recommend that you add the letters SCA after, because it gets delightfully blue in all of the most wrong ways, especially the whole section about the monks. The monk section is quite enjoyable and just ever so terrible. Alrighty, so let's do a little bit of his friend. kind of recollect ourselves just a little bit and give time for all of that information to download. The last two things that we're going to be talking about are fairly simple and straightforward, and I think we will be good from there. So, alrighty. So we have talked about what to do in our pre-writing. We have talked about how to collect stuff as we are writing. We have talked about the need to clean it up afterwards and leave our draft alone. And now comes the dreaded part: editing your manuscript with the world building in mind. Now that you have done all of the work, now that you really have, hopefully by this point, a good understanding of how all of this works. Like, you had possibly some notes about your magic system before, but now that you've actually written people casting spells, you have a better idea of how that works. Now's where you make that consistent. Please, dear God, fantasy writers of the universe, now is where you make that consistent. Please. Please. So you go through and you make sure everything that you've done in your world building actually matters in the story. This is also where you will start discovering where certain passages were neat for you to know. They're great for your notes, but no longer belong there. I love The Lord of the Rings. I love The Lord of the Rings so much. I don't need every song that popped into anybody's mind while they were walking down the road. I don't need all of them. Like, you could have done a greatest hits moment, because some of those songs, they're kind of nifty. They're kind of wonderful. And most of them, those come from the dwarf, who, I'm sorry, Gimli in the movies, why are you? You took away my sweet, sweet poet.
Yes.
That I love so much from the book, who is not in the movie at all. Character by the same name, but not the same character.
Not the same character now.
But I don't need all of Aragorn's, like, emo songs. Like, I get it. Your hair's long. Your daddy was
sad,
mean to you.
Charlie. He's so sad. They
I
don't
get
have
it.
antidepressants there.
Like, if it would have paid off and I would have gotten a cut of the movie with Viggo Mortensen being forced to sing all those songs, then they would have been worth it. Because do you know how much I would pay for the supercut with Viggo singing those songs? Like, so much.
Shirtless.
Yeah, I'm about to say, thank you, Megan. Thank you. Shirtless. Like, dude, do not just sing to me. Sing to me shirtless. Do this right.
But I don't need all of
Free me
Cosimo's
the
songs.
test.
They're good for you to know. They're good for fleshing out the world in your own mind. That's wonderful. This would be the time where you would clean some of that up. Some of Tom Bombadil's songs,
I was about to say, what
fine.
about Tom Bombadil? Where my Tom at?
But some of Tom's songs.
Sometimes sounds
to
are
quote
naughty.
epic rap battles when they did their Tolkien versus George Martin, we don't need the backstory on every single tree branch.
And
I edited it slightly, but yeah.
And on the whole George R.R. Martin thing, not all of your side characters need a full plot arc. No. Like, if they're literally the lady's maid that's coming in to pick up the chamber pot, I don't need to know how they are cruelly killed later in the story.
No, but no, I'm kidding.
Like, we don't need all the, oh God, stop with the side questing. Just so many side quests. Just,
You have no idea my world building. One day I will not apologize.
Look, if that's the point of it, but seriously, how many books? So they've gone through 5 books now, because their book 6 is the one they're waiting on, if I remembering correctly. Or is it book 5? I don't know. There are too many books because they're too big and have too many characters in them.
I think there's 5 out, so this would be the 6th. And I say that as somebody's had to check out a lot of these books with people, and then they come back and complain like, I will not be forwarding your comments. Like, I do not care.
5 are out, 6 is like partially done, and then there's a 7th one, and I only know that because the one podcast that I listen to, in every single episode, one of the co-hosts goes, George R.R. Martin is dead to me because...
Yeah, y'all are never going to get Winds of Winter or Dreams of Spring. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. You have the titles, be happy for that. This is your Dune, y'all. I don't know how book 6 was going to go. I don't even know the name of book 6. I know that he was kind of working on it. But after the events of Chapter House, like, you were doing what? How are you going to wrap this series up? Like, how? Oh, by just dying so you didn't have to. Okay, Frank, that is not a valid solution to the plot wall that you wrote yourself into. Like, I love you and I love your stuff, but that's not how we solve this. And for people who have never made it past the first book, if you think the first book is bonkers, and by the time you get to Chapter House, you will go back and look at the first book and go, things were so much simpler back then. This was like, it's amazing how little was going on in this world. And then it's like, apparently one more book was going to sum it all up. And, so take all of your work, everything that you've done, polish the hell out of your manuscript with it. This is where you can make things so much better, so much more meaningful. If you discovered that your weird elvish people like to run around in all kinds of silver damask patterns, I don't know why you did that, but go for it. Have go. Just run with it. Is everything look like couch embroidery from the 60s? Have fun with that. Go with it. Just gild that lily all the way through, but make it consistent, make it work. This is why we put in all of the work up until this point. Is so when we get here and we're like, so I now know that there's like all of these holidays that never get mentioned once in the book because one of my characters is inextricably obsessed with half of them. Don't at me. I have a problem. I've always got like one character that cares.
Sorry, my phone fell, so I might have clicked a button.
I was like, wait, Maggie came back and then went back out to do chores? I got lost for a minute.
Goats, y'all.
Bring back Tom. Yes. So this is where you polish your work. This is where you really make it shine. This is where you get rid of a lot of the white room syndrome, because you know what? If your characters have a very established aesthetic that you have figured out from the world building that you've done, or that the setting does, you can now get rid of all your white rooms without having to struggle too much, because you know, oh, they're staying at this hotel. Well, here's the general aesthetic of this hotel. At that point, you can pretty much close your eyes and fill in the details from there as to what's in the room, how it's laid out, how often they're actually changing the sheets, all of those things that are important for that to really feel like a place that the character is. And I'm going over this fairly quickly, but honestly, at this point, you've done the hard work. That's why we spent so much time on the first 3, because that's where most of the labor comes in. Now we're just making sure it's in the text that we can see it there. And so after we've done that polish, after we've finished getting our manuscript done, we're going to go back to our world building one last time, because we may have added new details. We may have changed some details because, let's be honest, we're going to change some details. We're going to be writing a scene and we're going to be like, maybe that should have actually been in spring, and we're going to start moving our manuscript around in the editing because, let's face it, we're those people. By that, I mean writers. We're not going to make it easier on ourselves. So that wonderful fall festival that you wrote up in your world building, it's now a spring festival because you realize that event should happen before these other events, and those events have to take place in spring because of a reason. So now it's not a fall festival, it's a spring festival, and so you need to update your notes. Very important to do, because in this day and age, and especially if you're writing sci-fi and fantasy, the likelihood that this is a one-off and that you will never touch this world building again is minuscule. Because you know that about halfway through the first page, you became interested in a plot bunny that would be perfect for the sequel or the sequel a couple books down after we do a couple of the other plot bunnies that they brought along as friends. Because that's how fantasy and science fiction work.
Who feels called out?
I'm just like, I'm just gonna silently.
Charlie, I thought we were friends.
It's like, it's a fair call out.
It is, but it's still a call out.
It hurts me. I'm delicate.
But this is why you go back, you polish it up, because you know what? You're not going to remember that you decided, oh, the jewelry should be silver instead of gold. Like in the writing, you decided, no, everyone does gold for something being really lavish. I'm going to make silver the really rare material in this setting. So everything's silver now, or copper, or brass, or whatever you decided. You're not going to remember that when you come back to the world, and you're going to look at your notes and it says gold, and people are going to read your first book and everything's brass, and they're going to read your second book and go, why did they gild everything? I don't understand. What happened to the interim when everything got gilded? Did they suddenly come into money? What happened? You're not going to remember. Make sure that you record any of those changes. Do that final polish. And even better, now start figuring out if there is a way to monetize this work or use it in some other way for promotion, for inspiration for your ad copy, for information, for anything that you can do to rope readers into your setting. Could this be collected up and put into some form of reader magnet that would bring people to your setting? You would be surprised, especially if you're doing sci-fi. The worlds of my setting is a reader magnet that will pull people into your sci-fi setting. Even if it's just a blanket, like this species lives on this planet that's called this. Picture. Next page. We like all the crazy aliens, y'all. That's why we read that kind of sci-fi. If you generated that in your world building, guess what? You now have a reader magnet to pull people in. You can now repurpose this and use it for a whole bunch of different things, which we will be talking about in the future when we do our brand assets and brand management talk. Because I have been talked into doing that. So, there it is. It's not that hard. It's not that difficult. It's just about being ruthless. Or as I was saying on Glory Stream, relentlessly on Monday, do the violence. You're going to tell yourself, no, I don't want to do this. No, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. You have to have ruthlessness at every step or it will get away from you. Okay. So next week on this channel, we are going to be doing, let's see, it's bringing realism to the unreal, which is probably going to be less educational and more me ranting for 3 hours than anybody else who wants to rant with me. Because I have feelings about this. And just a little preview, realism doesn't mean what most of the people that use it think it means. So that's going to be our first, probably most of the discussion is just that's not what realism in fiction is. And that's going to be fun. And then the week after that, I will be joined by the wonderful Megan, and we're going to talk about world building for the real world. And anybody else who wants to join in, that would be awesome. I'm really excited about that. I have been asked to do this for a while, but as somebody who, like, even my real world stories are urban fantasy, really. I mean, like, I could give the Vampire Diaries the run for its money for the convoluted supernatural just cluster F of my backstory. So, that's not really the real world. I mean, it's technically in Maryland, but that's a technicality. So I wanted to have people there that actually do that genre. So if that's you, please be there. Please bring your questions. And as always, if you can, send them on ahead of time so that if I don't know the answer, I can reach out to some wonderful beings that do and make sure that we have those answers for you when we get there. All right. Does anybody have anything that they would like to say before we run off?
all these people are awesome, and go follow their channels and read their books.
Unless I truly messed up, because I redid the entire list. Everybody who is here should be listed in the description below. And if they're not at the time of the recording, they will be later. But everybody should be down there because I redid it. I have noticed that YouTube has been using my old one, even though I even changed the default one that it puts into place sometimes. And while I love and miss Abigail so much,
Yeah, me too.
she hasn't been streaming. So, there are other people that I put in down there. So hopefully she's not listed down there. That's how you know that YouTube overrode me and was like, no, we're using the old one.
Yeah, it's like I just saw her listed at the bottom of yours.
I don't understand why that is, because I have the new one that has all the new stuff on it, and it keeps defaulting over.
She's not dead, but she haunts.
It just likes Abigail as much as we do.
Yeah.
And also, if anybody has had any success using the automated search and replace tool that TubeBuddy has, please let me know, because I can't see that it does anything. I've tried it. It did nothing at all. So it said it did. It went through all of the animated, I'm doing things, woohoo! And then nothing changed. So if anybody knows how to actually make that work, please contact me and let me know. Alrighty. All of these people are wonderful. Tomorrow, Glory and Kat will be doing Coffee Bunny Cafe on Kat's channel.
Yes. Last week was Glory's. I should hopefully be on time, but I do have a very important first meeting with the doctor. But that's at 11 a.m., but it's also my friend is driving me to this doctor's appointment, it's my old roommate. She was awesome enough that she's going to give me a ride, so I don't have to deal with the anxiety of figuring out transferring buses on a bus route that I've never used before. But it's also the 1-year anniversary.
That is amazing.
Yay!
Coffee Bunny for 1 year.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yay.
It both feels like we've always done Coffee Bunny, but at the same time, that can't have been a year ago that started.
It was exactly tomorrow. Well, yeah, it'll be a year.
I think the official date is Fridays, but
we originally streamed May 13th of last year, and then tomorrow it will be 365 days or whatever it is, 364. I don't know, but that's a year. It's a whole dang year.
That is
and
amazing.
We've never missed an episode.
Which, given how the last year has been for everybody, that is amazing. That is something that
not missed an episode.
Twitch, I know you don't typically hand out trophies, but this is trophy worthy. This is a harder thing to do than getting those stupid diamond badges that YouTube gives out. Seriously, did not miss a stream in a year. How do that is amazing.
We even streamed on holidays.
Yeah, we even streamed during holidays. We did the whole mishbucha, the whole thing. We did not miss. Kat was there in spirit and also gave me access to her account, so it counts. It totally counts.
Alrighty. Let's see. I think I did all the stuff that I have to promo. As always,
I'm about to go to my Twitch stream right now to get ready for a streaming in less than an hour.
Oh, nice.
We're going to get ready for Monday's show.
Oh, yeah.
Where everybody's going to share their writer resources and tools and favorite books and all the things. So, yeah, we can all info dump with ease. Yes.
Share all the things I know.
So much
my Twitch stream is literally my name. My channel name, Glory Writes the Blues. So
let's go off, have the fun world building. Check out all my stuff over on World Anvil. And if you are going to be making your own, I've got a little affiliate link down in the thing that, you could help me out a little bit if you're doing that. Alrighty, let's I feel like I'm forgetting to say something. That's why I'm hemming and hawing, but I do think I've said everything.
There is no Thursday stream on Charlie's channel.
That's it. Thank you. Yeah, we are not streaming
yes.
tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I knew I was forgetting something. We're not streaming tomorrow. I have my class, and we are doing a fundraiser for the Girls and Boys Club. We're actually doing several fundraisers this week. We're doing one for the Girls and Boys Club. We're also doing one for PFLAG this week. So Brian is very, very busy. And while Naked Viking Run with Tom sounds like a really fun stream, I didn't want to put that on him.
Although we
just
did have a
felt mean.
plan. It was just mostly naked Vikings picking dandelions for like 2-3 hours.
It just
That was
seemed-
his plan to stream alone. Was like, oh, y'all gonna have to watch my naked Viking pick dandelions deal with it. You know? And I'm like, I don't think you're talking most people out of this like you think you are, sir.
Exactly. All right. Thank you for remembering that for me, Kat. I'm, as always, this is why I need to hire her as my office manager. Like even feeling as bad as she does, she's doing a better job than I am. Alrighty. Have the fun, y'all. Bye.
Bye.